Welcome back to a special Q&A podcast with Dylan right here on Think Critical Patreon. Last week, you and I were supposed to answer a bunch of questions. Due to overwhelming technical difficulties, you not having internet service and mine crapping out left and right, we weren't able to do it. But I did want to circle back because we had some really good questions specifically for you that I thought we could answer today and talk a little MMA. Does that work for you?
Ooh, yeah, I'm excited. Let's do it.
So how are you feeling about comic books right now? Are you feeling excited? Is it a down period for you? Are you indifferent?
I'm liking All In right now because of mainly Nightwing and Green Arrow. I'm happy about and JSA. So All In's actually
Batman
pretty
and
good.
Robin's the best one.
Yeah, I agree. Batman and Robin is the best one, but Batman and Robin was like not a entirely bad book prior compared to like Nightwing and Green, books
It's
that
true.
like were terrible. So I agree. I think Batman and Robin is my favorite book of DC right now. But I'm really digging All In right now. I couldn't care less about like the Absolute stuff. I'm enjoying Absolute Batman, but it's not like great or anything. But All In's actually I'm happy with what's been going on there right now. Marvel, I like Incredible Hulk's like the only thing I'm reading right now.
Yeah. The only thing with DC and the mainline continuity I think that's really weird is all the things touching Justice League Unlimited, and they're kind of just all bad. Like the Black Lightning book is weird. The Question All Along the Watchtower is weird. We haven't got Project Adam yet, but they're having like all these subsidiary like tie-in books to Justice League Unlimited, and it hasn't started out well.
I haven't read any of those tie-ins. I read Justice League Unlimited, and it was just I didn't care. I don't care about the new fancy Watchtower or any of that, and just
Yeah, don't read Question All Along the Watchtower because it's like 30 pages of a guided tour of the Watchtower.
nice. They really love
Not
that
even joking.
Watchtower.
Yeah, it was not a good book, but I think a lot of the in continuity changes that they made have actually been pretty good.
Yeah.
So
And
let's get into answering some of these questions. First up, we've got Lane Kramer, aka Shenanigans. So, Dylan, having been affected by the comics aficionados, do you see yourself in 20 years being the next incarnation of Doc?
oh God, I hope not. I hope I don't. I hope I don't get that jaded. We'll see. But no,
You're
I
going to
don't
give
think
up on the
so.
entire DC universe? Like, it all sucks.
Yeah, back in my day, everything was so much better. No, I hope I don't go that route. Only time will tell, though.
You're not affected by the comics aficionados. You were talking about comic books on YouTube long before I ever started.
Yeah, I've been talking for a while.
Yeah, you're pretty much the same guy.
Yeah, yeah, I'd say
Yeah,
so.
we didn't make him worse, if anything, you know. Next up for Blade, have you read any of the Energon universe? Lane has not. What's been your favorite series so far? Who have you been your favorite characters? And if you read Scarlet, how bad was it from beginning to end?
I can't say from beginning to end. I can only say from beginning because I gave up after the first issue. That first issue was awful. That
Yeah, it wasn't very good. I don't think they understand who Scarlet is. It almost felt like they were trying to make her into Snake Eyes.
Yep.
Like by
It was
introducing the Arashikage, and then she's just wiping out ninjas left and right.
yeah, and she's best friend / maybe more with Jinx, which was really weird. It
They
was
got their own
odd.
special language.
Yeah, it was weird. The Scarlet was horrible. I don't know. Would you say that you read the whole series, right?
I read 2.5 issues.
Okay,
Then stop.
so you read an issue and a half more than me.
Yeah,
Was the
it didn't
next
get
issue and a
better. It
half?
got worse.
Okay, so that's good to know. But
So
I've only read GI Joe as far as the Energon universe, and I mean like all the GI Joe books. I haven't
so
read any
Duke,
Transform.
Cobra Commander, Destro, one issue of Scarlet, and GI Joe #1.
Yep, yeah. I read the first issue of the like actual what's the name of Void Rivals. I read the first issue of that. And that's it for Energon universe. And I've liked pretty much all other than Scarlet, liked pretty much all of it. I'd say Scarlet was the worst. Destro was weaker than the others, but I still enjoyed Destro overall. But it wasn't like
Kind
a
of throwaway
fantastic.
at the end, though.
Yeah. Yeah, it wasn't anything to write home about, but I really enjoyed Duke. I thought Duke was great. I really enjoyed Cobra Commander too. I like that everything him going into the swamp and how he turned that all around. I thought
Cobra
that was
Law,
really cool.
weird
Yeah.
stuff with the
Yeah, I
movie.
thought Cobra Commander was really cool. I like that a lot. And then the first issue of GI Joe was amazing. So I've really enjoyed Energon GI Joe stuff so far, especially because like I really liked some of the earlier days of IDW GI Joe, and then it just went so bad at the end. It was so awful. They kept switching writers, and it was terrible. So it's cool to see GI Joe actually be good again.
Yeah, IDW there for a minute. Their GI Joe stuff was fine. I thought their TMNT stuff was really, really good. And then even like Ghostbusters was really cool, and they ruined it all.
Yeah, I don't know what went wrong with IDW, but everything, because I really enjoyed what they were doing with GI Joe for a minute there. Like they had some really cool stuff with Mike Costa and Chuck Dixon, like doing because you had like the Real American Hero from Larry Hama if you wanted the more classic GI Joe. Then if you wanted like a bit more of like a I guess sort of darker real world type GI Joe, you had the Chuck Dixon Mike Costa stuff. And it was really cool, and then it just went awful. They had that one's weird socialist like wrestler fan guy that wrote it for a bit with that horrible artist. You know who I'm talking about? I can't remember his name. I can't remember. He was terrible though. I remember the
The
art
only
was
wrestle I know that
horrible.
writes comics is like CM Punk, but I
Well,
don't think that's
he's
who.
not a wrestler. He was a wrestler fan. Like he did a wrestling comic book. I can't remember his name.
Oh, I know who you're talking about.
Yeah.
Uh, that guy with the
Yeah.
long hair that was the
Yes.
9/11 guy.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
It's the only reason anyone knows him because, like, if you weren't in New York on 9/11, you can't mourn this day. It's like, you are
Yeah.
an idiot, sir.
Yeah. I can't remember
Oh,
that guy's
man.
name.
That
Yeah,
nobody
he wrote
remembers
GI
this
Joe, and
day.
he was like an out and about socialist, which is really weird for a GI Joe book to get that. But yeah,
So, are
that
you
guy
still
was.
reading A Real American Hero with Larry Hama right now under Skybound?
I haven't. I know I've been told it's great on Skybound. I want to.
Fantastic.
It's the first trade out. I need to get it because he had gotten terrible towards the end of American Hero. Like Larry Hama had either run out of ideas or just didn't care. But I heard, like you've been saying, that Skybound's really good. But at the end of IDW, Real American Hero, he was really bad. He had Snake Eyes die to a grenade from like a Serpentor. I think it was really stupid. Some of the stuff he was doing.
Yeah, the
Remember
Chris
that?
Moodyham art really elevates it. It's been really, really good.
It was what? It was
But
just SL Gallant, like at the end of a Real American Hero.
yeah.
I feel like, right?
So, would you say your favorite series is the Williamson Tom Riley stuff from Duke going into GI Joe #1? Because it feels like the same series to me because of the art.
Yeah, definitely. I'd say that's my favorite.
Yeah,
They
me
chose
too.
a really cool angle with that too, of him like seeing a transformer and what it does, or Decepticon, and then be like, guys, there's these things out there. Like,
The
that
government's
was
telling
really
him it's
cool.
not real. Yeah,
Yeah.
it
These guys
squished his
crazy.
Fred.
Yeah.
Um, do you have a favorite character out of this? Because what they've done on Energon mostly is going back to the original, not comic books, but to the cartoons and tweaking them. Obviously, the Transformers is pretty much the exact beginning of the Transformers cartoon, but with a different angle to it. And with the cartoons, I'm sorry, with GI Joe and Duke and stuff, they're kind of going back more cartoon route. Is there one character that stood out to you as just being really good so far?
So far, it's probably Duke and Cobra Commander are probably like my two favorites so far. But like overall for GI Joe, it's Snake Eyes and Chuckles, and neither of those guys are here yet.
We haven't
So
seen him yet. Yeah,
yeah, I'm excited for
yeah.
those two. But I
I'm
would,
in agreement with you on Duke. He's probably the biggest standout. He's gotten the most
yeah,
exposure.
when he
Although I like what they're
jumped,
doing with Baroness.
Baroness is interesting. I do hope she turns bad though. I don't want her to be good the whole time. I'm waiting for the heel turn.
She's got to go bad. But Energon's been great and really enjoying the GI Joe. Can't wait for the second issue. That first one was a banger.
Duke jumping across onto the
That was a
helicopter.
great one.
That was so great. I love that.
Next up, we got Edward Hawa, aka Alterian Dylan. I'm a huge fan of Zatanna. Looking forward to the new miniseries. I just survived the truly mediocre Bring Down the House. Why do you feel DC constantly just rehashes her origin rather than progressing her story? Are there any other DC characters, in your opinion, DC needs to let grow narrative-wise?
Yeah, Jason Todd's one that needs to be like narrative wise, big time. I would. Jason Todd's been held, but he hasn't progressed since Under the Red Hood. But as
Yeah.
far as Zatanna, I think it's just because they feel like she doesn't have the fan base that they want her to, so they just reintroduce her every time. Just be like, hey, this is Zatanna, you know her, right? And they just perpetually, instead of being like, hey, she has like, however small, she has her subset of fans. Let's just progress, and then whoever is interested will come along.
Yeah, Bringing Down the House was a Mariko Tamaki miniseries. And for
Ooh,
what it is, I think it's fine. I think girls will probably like it, but I really like the art on it. But it's just her being scared of magic and, being haunted by what happened to her dad and going on dates and stuff. Not a very good book.
Yeah, I think the last time I saw Zatanna was this little bit in the Absolute Power Superman tie-ins where her and Superman went to like that shadow world or
That,
whatever it was.
that's how they use her. She's just a plot device or a Deus Ex Machina. You need to be here, but you need to go there. Zatanna shows up and gets you there.
Exactly. You need a magic user, you get Zatanna. Yep.
Yeah. I would say Raven's another character that kind of falls into that box. She's always just haunted by her destiny. They've tried to
Oh yeah,
do
her
it, I guess,
dad and everything. Yeah.
with the Beast Boy romance thing, but I don't know. I don't even like that romance, so I don't think it works for me, at least.
I mean, I feel like it's mostly for fans of the TV show, like people who really like the
Yeah.
cartoon, and that's why they just keep going back to that constantly.
And
Yeah,
then
I
the,
think
the other
that's
one that kind of stands out in my mind is Damian Wayne, because he does get character progression. Peter J. Tomasi certainly did it. Williamson certainly has done it. But every time they progress him, the next writer always brings him right back to his original state.
yeah. Yeah. Hopefully what Phil Kennedy Johnson's doing sticks because what he's doing is really this is the most like character we've actually gotten out of Damien in a long time. What's going on
Yeah,
in
where
like
he's
Batman and
actually
Robin?
learning there are repercussions with your actions and losing, and you can't always win, kind of thing, and kind of growing as a person. But yeah, there are definitely some characters who are just like stuck in neutral forever.
Yeah. Like I was saying with Jason Todd, that's what's really annoying with Jason Todd. He's in the same spot he's been in forever. They haven't done anything. I did like Grant Morrison did something interesting with him in Batman and Robin. Like I like that, and that was like the only thing we've gotten since Under the Red Hood. Like
Yeah,
other
and
than
how many
that, it's
times
been
does he have to accidentally kill somebody where it's clear as day that Red Hood didn't mean to kill the person, and then Batman shows up and is like, "I'm throwing you in prison. You're a murderer, Jason Todd. You need to get over what
constantly.
happened to you." It's dude like
And
the same story over and over.
yeah, and I want him to be the rogue of the Bat family. I don't want him to fit in. I don't like that he's like, it's a Bat family meetup, so of course Red Hood's there. I'd like him to be like the ace that's outside of the Bat family instead of him being the guy that's like, no, I'll use rubber bullets now, and I'm cool with the rest of the Bat family. I like Jason to be like that dickhead that's like outside of the Bat family adjacent.
Yeah, definitely. A lot of the Robins are just kind of stuck there. Next up, we've got Brad Frederick, aka the Phantom Hero. Dylan, you being a young comic fan, an endangered species these days, I'm interested to know what got you into comics and what made you stay. I feel like the biggest missing link from comics is younger actual readers.
When I was little, we had this like nice library near me. My mom would take me, and they had this section where they had beanbag chairs and bins of single issues that people had donated. And I would just go in, like when I was like 4 years old, I'd go in, I'd grab some single issues, sit on the beanbags, and just read comics as much as I could until like all my siblings were doing whatever, running around. And that's what I did. And then later, I found out that there was a comic shop near me, and then I went to that comic shop, and I would just go, and they had dollar back issues, and they had that the entire time till they closed down. So that was sick, and that's how I got into comics library and then comic shop.
Dollar bin.
Yeah, and it was
And it
huge,
was
like a massive. It wasn't like a lot of dollar bins. Like there's two long boxes. It was like every single back issue, like a gigantic selection, all $1.
and what was it about Superman that made is like he's your anchor character, right?
Yeah. I thought super well, obviously the powers are cool. So when you first see like him fly and punch people around, that's cool. But I always thought the idea of, absolute power corrupts absolutely, except for Superman because he was raised right. I think that's cool. I think that's a really cool concept. And I like that a lot. And that's kind of like what drew me in.
Was there like one writer or artist that really just stood out to like this is what did it for you?
Ed McGuinness. Ed McGuinness everywhere when I was a kid was seeing Hat Superman everywhere. I was like, yeah, Superman looks so cool. That was definitely like the main one.
So what you're bringing up there, I think, is a good point that comic books for you were very accessible. Not only could
Yeah.
you go to the library where your older brothers and sisters were going around and getting their books, and I'm sure mom was too. You sit there, you read a couple floppies or maybe two or three while you're waiting for everybody. But you find out there's a comic book shop and you can go out there and there's readily accessible dollar comic books, which isn't all that expensive. And these days, it's hard to find a place with dollar comic book bins. Everybody pulls out anything that could be valuable, and puts a sticker on it. And then just regular new comic books are so beyond kids' prices anymore.
Yeah. It's ridiculous. Like you can't go in and just get like a dollar comic. If you do, like the ones that have like dollar bins, like here's the absolute shittiest comics we have. You can
We got
buy
some
them for
Fire
a
and Ice
dollar.
Welcome to Smallville for you.
Yeah, we got yeah, exactly. It's nothing that's really
You know,
gonna get a kid
it's
interested.
Superman Rebirth.
It's real hard. I feel like now for there's not really incentive or like an easy way for kids to get into comics. I was lucky with my situation.
So I'm sure you saw like Dollar Tree are going to have $1.25 issues of DC books. Do you see that?
No, I didn't.
So they've shown the little display that they've got. They've shown them in Dollar Tree, and I think $1.25 obviously is a great price. But when you're looking at all the comic books on them, they all have a Rebirth like label on them, which is
Nice.
great because Rebirth is awesome. There's very few bad series in DC Rebirth, but that stuff's like 7 years ago now.
Yeah.
It's really woefully out of date.
Yeah, that'd also be very disappointing if you got into some Rebirth stuff and then you tried to get into the modern stuff,
And then you get
especially if you
Defenders.
yeah, if you get into Rebirth Superman and then now you're like picking
You're
up
like
a
into
bunch of
Super Sons.
Dylan
You're like,
stuff.
oh, I love this John character. What are they going to do with him?
It's so cool Superman has a son. I can't. I'm so excited to see what happens here. And then yeah, you get
Oh,
to
he's
go
in
down
Legion of
that journey.
Superheroes. Like,
That's
why is
gotta
he
be
17?
oh man. Yeah, take me back to Rebirth. Or they oh if they ever do any Doomsday Clocks. Like, wow, I really hope they follow what they do here.
The cool
Yeah.
thing about Doomsday Clock, what Jeff Johns was doing there, not only just incorporating like the Watchmen universe into DC Comics, which is kind of eye rolling, but I guess they had to do it. But he really established all the way through there that Superman is the alpha of the DC universe. He's the beginning. And without Superman, there can be no DC universe. And really, that's the lesson that Dr. Manhattan understands by the end. Do I want to follow the example of Superman and be a power for good? And they've just thrown all of it out the window.
It was such a great setup. They kind of they at least kept that aspect with Superman with this new absolute because they're like this one's off Superman's hope, while this new one's off Darkseid's meanness or whatever. But yeah, it was such a great. That was also the last like event where I really felt like it was like like as soon as my comic shop would open up at like 10 in the morning, like I'd like left the office to like go over and pick up the new issue of Doomsday Clock. Like I gotta see what happens.
Read it
That
on
was the
your lunch
last
break.
exactly. That was the last time I was like super excited for a comic. Like now, I get excited for comics. I'm excited to read them, but that was the last time it really felt like an event. Like I gotta see what's going on when it comes out, and that was so good. And it was so cool seeing like a very a character like Dr. Manhattan and Alan Moore creation be inspired by Superman. I like that a lot. But
Yeah, it was awesome. And it kind of works because Alan Moore is like the world's biggest Superman fan, despite being
yeah,
how cynical he is as a writer.
yeah,
Anytime
yeah,
you touch Superman, he's like, this is the greatest person in the history of the world.
yeah. And it was I know there's a random half of people that hate Doomsday Clock and think it sucks, but I really liked it a lot.
I thought it was really good.
Yeah.
Next question from Brad. Disney, Marvel, Star Wars comics has officially entered the post-Return of the Jedi period. Most of the prior comics have been underwhelming, to be kind. Where would you take Star Wars comics if you were the editor? Please don't say Rise of Skywalker era. I'm begging you.
I something new. Like I don't know what era I'd take it to because I'd like to take it to something that doesn't exist yet. I'd like to just do something new because
They
I'm
tried to do
tired
that with High Republic. Yeah,
High Republic
it didn't
was
work.
so it was so from the before I even read anything from High Republic, just looking at the designs, like this is gonna be bad. Like it looked lame. It
A
looked
rock
really
that's a
dumb.
Jedi.
Yeah, it looked stupid. Like everything about design, it didn't look like when you first saw like the old Republic from the original old Republic. Like this looks cool. Like you look at that and it looks really it looks really lame. The design of all the Jedis. People have too modern of haircuts. Also, that's a complaint I have. Like some people have like the half shaved head stuff. It's like
Yeah.
it doesn't fit. It doesn't work. But I either way in the future or way in the past, I feel like there's a lot of cool things you can do. I'm tired of playing in they're really in love with the original trilogy era. I love the original trilogy. We've got enough stories there. We don't need 1,000 more. Just
And I
figure
certainly don't
something
want
out.
to see them bridge the gap from
Yes.
Return of the Jedi to The Force Awakens. Like no, let's leave that alone. Like
Yep.
there's nothing there. If I want that, I'll go read The Legacy of the Force, which I'm doing right now.
Yeah, they've already filled in too many gaps in between the movies. Like the whole like, oh, we were testing the carbonite in between and stuff like that is really dumb. There's a lot of stupid stuff that they've done that like kind of breaks the movies. Like, oh yeah, Luke and Vader actually met like a million times. It turns out in between the movies, like that's not good.
Well, and even in the TV show, which I guess is a comic book now, the Obi-Wan thing where Obi-Wan fought Darth Vader again. I'm like, no, he didn't. This is the
Yeah,
first time in a long time when they finally meet on the fucking Death Star. It's
yeah,
supposed to be a big event.
yeah.
They can't
But
help
they
themselves.
no, they don't care, and it's sad because Star Wars is such a lucrative property. Remember, isn't like the Jason Aaron's #1 still like one of the best selling comics ever?
It's the best-selling comic book of the last 20 years, I believe. It went over a
Yeah,
million.
yeah.
But
So like
because they
the
included
Force
that in like a
Awakens.
bundle thing. Remember when they did those boxes and you get like a Star Wars box and you would open it up, there'd be a t-shirt, a
Oh
plushie,
yeah,
there'd
yeah,
be
yeah,
some
yeah,
pogs.
yeah.
They put Jason Aaron's Star Wars into like 300,000 of those, and that counts
Oh,
towards
okay.
the 1 million number. So it wasn't
Okay.
quite there. They did finagle a little bit, but it's still very
That
successful.
yeah. It sold really well. Also had the hype of there's a new Star Wars movie going to be coming out. Star Wars is back after it had been dead for several years. But still,
Eh,
like people want Star Wars. It's just Disney has done their best to make people not want Star Wars at all.
yeah, dude, what's weird? Jason Aaron's Star Wars is kind of whatever, but he does have the best of probably Disney era Star Wars story ever told, along with Kieran Gillen with Vader Down, dude. I think it's
Kieran
great.
Gillen was amazing on Darth Vader. Like,
Darth
say
Vader.
whatever about his other Marvel stuff, but on Darth Vader, for some reason, that guy can write Darth Vader. Like, I liked every single story arc he did on Darth Vader. Kieran Gillen was amazing.
Yeah. So if you haven't checked out Vader Down, definitely do that. It's definitely there's trades out there of it. Me personally, when I was thinking about this question, I was like, go back to the Knights of the Old Republic or further.
Yeah. I think sending it further because I don't want them to touch a Knights of the Old Republic. I
You
kind
don't
of
want
don't
to
want
break
them to
what's already
touch
there.
it. Yeah, so maybe leave that alone. Go further back, and do something there. But yeah, there's a lot of cool stuff
Knights of
to
the
do.
First Republic. That's what you need.
Yeah, well, that's what what's his name? The guy that directed Logan's, I think, making that movie.
Yeah.
Like
Mangold.
the first. Yeah, he's making like the first ever Jedi. So who knows what that'll be? Because he's so hit or miss. He makes some good movies, and then he made like this last Indiana Jones, which sucked ass. That movie was terrible.
He also did the Dark Phoenix movie, right?
No, no, no. He did no. That's the what's it called? The producer Kinberg. Kinberg did the last
Oh,
Dark Phoenix. Yeah.
the guy that's going to do the new trilogy in Star Wars.
Yes. But to be
Yeah, that's
fair,
right.
he has to be fair, he has a better track record as a producer. Dark Phoenix was like the X-Men that, everything was dying at Fox. So like, here, you've produced all these movies. Now you can direct one. And he made the worst one.
So, did you read any of the Battle of Jakku stuff? Well, I think we're on the second series now.
I haven't read a Star Wars comic in a long I read like I think the last I read pretty much all of Bounty Hunters, and that was basically it. Because I like that main character. These essentially Star Wars is Jonah Hex. I like him, and Ethan Sachs. I thought did a pretty good job with him. But other than that, I haven't read a Star Wars comic
I'm
in a long
dying for
time.
some good Star Wars books, though, dude.
Yeah, yeah. Though there was a time when everything on screen for Star Wars sucks, but Marvel was actually doing pretty good with the Star Wars comics, and now it's just everything.
Yeah. Next up, I hope you're ready to talk about some Nightwing because Jess, aka Gunny Golden, has a lot of questions about Nightwing. Hey guys, Dylan. While Dick Grayson is one of the most kind, compassionate, and giving characters in the DCU, I'm not sure that if he inherited $1 billion, that he would just give it all away to create this foundation. It feels more like something Tom Taylor would do, and it seems like that's the whole reason for making Nightwing a billionaire in the first place. It doesn't do anything for the character.
Exactly. It makes no sense. It doesn't accomplish anything. It's not what Nightwing would do. Especially when you might like read Chuck Dixon's run. He's like struggling so much with money. And now he gets money. He's like, yeah, I'm just gonna give it all away. And like we were talking about on stream the other day on aficionados, it makes no sense for a guy that was raised by the greatest billionaire of all time to be like, anyone with a certain amount of money is evil and bad, and money is bad, and I'm going to get rid of all this because you have $1 billion, you're evil. You were raised by Batman. But that's Tom Taylor. Tom Taylor has that problem where he can write some good Elseworld stuff. Like I think Deceased is really good, but when he gets on a in continuity book, he feels like I have a mission to do something
Platform.
good. Yeah, I have to use my voice here. It's like, no, you don't. You
Yeah.
just gotta tell a good story.
The worst example being Superman Son of Kal-El. Is it issue number 2 when they're on the moon?
Oh, yeah.
Worst
Yeah.
conversation in Superman history.
It's so bad. Dad, why don't you do more? Like, you're talking to Superman. What do you mean? What do you mean, why don't you do more? Oh, that's so, and when he was writing that, he's like, this is it. This is like my magnum opus. This is great. People are gonna love this. And everyone read it. Like, this sucks.
Tom King did something really weird with Superman 2, to where it was supposed to be Superman stuck in like his best life or whatever when the Justice League went away. Remember they did those one shots?
Yeah.
And his was John Kent. He's getting to raise John Kent, and John's like, Dad, I hear all these people being murdered on this other planet. These children are being slaughtered and they're dying left and right. We need to go save them. And Superman's like, listen, you're just gonna have to get used to the voices. We're not doing anything to save those people. I was like, that's the most un-Superman thing in the history of the fucking world. Like, he's just listening to children being murdered left and right, and he's doing nothing about it.
That's the most Tom King thing,
Yeah.
though. Like, that sounds like, if you would have told me that was Tom King, I'd be like, guess the writer. I guess that. Give me one shot. I can guess that.
You didn't read that one?
No, that's the one with what was it, where it was like Superman and Robin type deal, right? I remember a cover where it was like Superman and Robin, but I didn't read it.
Yeah, you become Robin or something stupid that.
Yeah, I stayed
Don't
away
read
from
that one. You like Superman. It was bad. There's been a lot of weird Superman stuff as of late. Back to the Nightwing. And I think Jess gets kind of to the point of what that series really was all about. Being raised by Bruce Wayne, it would make sense for him to become a philanthropist, sort of. But now it feels like they're just making Dick Grayson into Bruce Wayne. Nightwing is supposed to be different than Batman, and Dick has tried very hard not to turn into Bruce. But I guess giving all his money away is supposed to make him better than Bruce.
Yep.
I think that's the point of the whole series.
Yes, to make him seem like he's better than, because remember, Bruce was raised in wealth, and this bad evil rich guy, and Dick comes from outside of wealth, so obviously he's way better because of that. But it doesn't really make sense for his character. It doesn't make him any better, and also we still don't see, like, as much as he gives all his money away, like, it doesn't actually affect what's affecting Bloodhaven. There's still a bunch of homeless kids. There's still people dying constantly from Heartless.
Kids being kidnapped, yeah.
Yeah, there's still like all these horrible things. It's like, well, it's great that he gave his money away. He probably could have used some of that money to help, find homeless sooner or something. Not Heartless sooner, but no, instead he just gave it away to make himself feel good. He stopped graffiti on a statue. That's what's really important, right? Or no, the cops that were stopping the graffiti. He stopped those corrupt cops. That's what it was. Yeah, it felt like everything he was doing was so pointless in that book and not interesting.
And the weird thing is I'm a Nightwing fan. Probably my favorite DC character. It's him or Hal. It's one or the other. And I love Dick Grayson as Nightwing, but I also like Bruce Wayne as Batman. I think Batman's a great character. I love a great Batman story. I already think Dick Grayson is better than Bruce, because Bruce is completely overwhelmed by vengeance and the memory of a bad thing that happened that he can't really get over, and his way to deal with it is going out there and trying to provide protection and justice to the people of Gotham, which is in the end result is a good thing, but the drive to do it is unhealthy. Whereas Dick Grayson is doing the same thing with the end result, but his driving force is the love of his family and wanting to do the right thing in their memory. And I just think that makes him a better, healthier character, and something like it's a better kind of role model than what Bruce is. So I think it's already established that he's kind of better. He's a healthier person.
Yeah, I think like the ultimate summation of what you're saying was that Grant Morrison Batman and Robin, where like you saw how it was with Bruce and Damian, but you see when it's Dick and Damian, you see how much better of an influence he is on Damian and how he sort of helps him progress and like get through things, compared to when it was Bruce and Damian, it wasn't so great, but when it was Dick and Damian,
because they're way too much alike.
Yeah,
know-it-alls that can't compromise type of thing. And then you have Dick, who doesn't demand respect, but ultimately through his actions and the way that he treats Damian with respect, earns it in the long term. And I love that relationship. That's a great Batman and Robin series.
It's amazing, and gives Damian a better perspective compared to just Bruce's singular perspective.
And one of the few times that replacing Bruce's Batman ever worked. Now, thankfully, it wasn't long term, but in the interim, in the short term, it was awesome.
It was great.
Yeah, and it wasn't like an Azrael, like, this is why you need Bruce Wayne. This is as bad as Batman kind of could be. It was like there could be a different flavor of Batman. It could work.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
That whole little time with Dick as Batman was really fun with Paul Dini and Grant Morrison doing some really cool stuff.
Frank Whiteley, it can get better than that. Yeah, if you haven't, that's why when James Gunn, talking about the DCU, was announcing, his inspiration for like Batman Brave and the Bold or whatever, it's Grant Morrison's Batman run where he introduced Damian. I was like, fuck that. I want Grant Morrison's Batman and Robin, where he actually fixed the character and had some good stories.
That was definitely the highlight of his run. There's a lot, there's a lot of stuff that he's been saying with like, this is what inspired my DCU. Or it's like, oh no.
Well, yeah, and Tom King's the best writer at DC Comics, and weird. Next up from Jess, I just don't understand the point of the aside from Tom Taylor shoving his politics where it doesn't belong. I've heard other people claim that Taylor has done a great character work with Dick Grayson. Personally, I don't see how. All Taylor did was give him $1 billion, create Alfred Pennyworth Foundation, give him a stupid half-sister, which again adds nothing to the character, and then retconned his history so it's hard to fear heights when he was 7, which also doesn't make any sense. So how is this great character work development?
He's done nothing. He tells you every issue how great Dick is. He never shows you. There's
It was a
nothing
celebration of the character, but it was never developing him at all.
yeah, ever. I'd say like I remember the first 2 issues of that series being solid, and then after that it went downhill. Like the first 2 issues, he's like, "Hey, I'm here on Nightwing," and it's like fun again because he's no longer Rick
He's
Grayson.
got a three-legged dog. Great.
Yeah, oh, this is cool. And yeah, Bruno Redondo on art. It looks amazing. And then it was just a slog after that. It's like, here's this heartless guy. Nothing's ever going to happen with him because Dick is just going to go around being the greatest guy ever. Yeah, there was no progression. There was never any arc for Dick in this story ever. It was a shame because he had so much time on the character, but he didn't do nothing.
Did you make it to the end? I don't believe you did, correct?
No, I didn't. I read like, what was it, the first 12 issues or something like that, and I gave up.
That was enough to know it was never going anywhere.
Yeah.
So before this, obviously, you had the infamous Rick Grayson story that happens in, was that Batman 55? Tom King, KGB shoots him in the head, gets amnesia, thinks he's Rick Grayson, goes and works at a bar for this lady named Bia. They end up dating. There's 4 Nightwings because they find his costumes and he's like kind of helping them or whatever. Nobody could make it work. Ben Percy ended up leaving Nightwing because of that. They replaced him with Scott Lobdell, who really crapped the bed. They tried to bring in Dan Jurgens to save that. That didn't work. Literally, it was unsalvageable. And they finally get back to Nightwing, Dick Grayson, Tom Taylor, which I certainly believe helps how that series feels. Coming off something that is historically bad and perhaps the worst Nightwing story of all time. But in there, they introduced that character of Bia. She's a bartender. She owns the bar. She's hiring Rick, and they end up dating or whatever. And throughout this fucking Tom Taylor Nightwing series, you end up finding out that her dad is actually a pirate. She's a pirate princess. Her name is Bia Bloodhaven. And then you find out that her dad, that was a pirate, that deemed her to be a pirate princess and the heir to the pirate fortune and like his fleet of ships or whatever. Her mom was an agent of Spiral, right? Is that where Dick Grayson used to work?
Yes, yeah.
Her mom was an agent of Spiral, and they were out to sea and she was lost, and that's how she was found. And then she became an agent of Spiral, and it was her job to like keep tabs on Dick Grayson. And that's how she he tried to make something out of this stupid Bia character that should have been an afterthought to comic book history, and it was completely embarrassing. You're so lucky you didn't get to catch any of that stuff.
So stupid. That's like I don't think any comic fan comes into a new run and is like, this character I never cared about, I really want to care about them now. Like, you can leave them in the past. That's how I feel about Nightwing's half sister right now. Like, he's using her in this new series. I'm like, just leave her in the past. I don't like her.
Melinda
We don't need her. If she just never shows up, we'll never be like, oh, I wonder what happened to her. I'll be like, no, she's a terrible character. Got a new writer. Didn't want to use her. She's gone. Fine, do that.
She's got the big lesbian roommate that beat the crap out of Dick in the first or second issue, right?
Yeah, she bit that when he snuck in and he got his ass beat instantly and unmasked and everything. It's like, yeah, because Dick's a bumbling moron idiot.
Well, and he also got his pocket picked by a freaking
by a kid. Yeah, and then was fine with it.
It's like, well,
So
let's get you some pizza, kid.
yeah, this is
Weird
happening
stuff.
to every normal person in Gotham, but these homos kids need it more than them, so that's fine.
So then Jess talks about Nightwing is my absolute favorite character, not just in comics, but all fiction. And this whole run felt very shallow to me. And then she says,
Yep.
what are your thoughts on the first 2 issues of Dan Waters' Nightwing run? I'm a bit torn on how I feel. Seems better than Taylor's run, but there are some problems. Why does it seem so hard to get a good Nightwing run or even just a good story? It feels like the last good ones were Untouchable by Sam Humphries and The Bleeding Edge by Ben Percy, which we didn't get a real ending to because of the Rick Grayson crap.
Yeah, both those were really good. I'm enjoying these first 2 issues so far. Now, it could just be because the last series was so bad that I'm kind of blinded. I'm like,
You haven't
oh,
had
decent
Nightwing in a
writing
while?
again.
Couple of
Yeah,
years.
but I've really enjoyed these first 2 issues. I'm into it. Like
I think it's
Dexter Soy's doing
weird.
great.
I love the art. Dexter Soy is awesome. I think it's weird that Nightwing is giving criminals like his peeper number and then is not only just like, let me know if another criminal is trying to break the truce or something, but if the police are after you, let me know and I'll come and distract the police. And it almost feels like they're putting him in a war of jokes and riddles position with Batman where he ends up being real fucking stupid.
Maybe, but I'll withhold judgment on that till we see how it plays out. But right now, I'm digging it because of the
I like
position
the
he's
teddy
in.
bears. I thought that was great.
Yeah, that thing with the being a kid, and he's like, oh, it's like Dick's coming for you.
That kid had
I
a
will.
gun to his head. He deserved to get the crap beat out of him.
Oh yeah, he
And
was
the
an
other one
idiot.
shot at the cops first.
Yeah, yeah, he was an idiot. I will
Yeah.
say the flying cops are really goofy. I think that looks dumb. It's like, oh wow, cops are so powered now because they have jetpacks. I thought that was really stupid.
Well,
But
also like this corporation that's clearly evil goes to Melinda Zuko. You need to pay us to arm up your own police. In fact, it'll be private police. And now that they've done it, Nightwing's like, no, you can't do it because this. And she's like, it's out of my hands. I already signed the budget. I was like, I feel like he could walk that one back if you needed to.
that's where I'm hoping that he's making Melinda Zuko a bad person. That'd be great. If he's like, after she was the greatest person ever in Tom Taylor's run, what if that's what he does with this character? What if he's like, actually, Zuko was in on it. She's bad. That'd be great. I hope so. Probably not the case, but that would be cool. It's set up at least. See it.
But obviously, it's very early on here, and we'll see how the Dan Warner stuff goes. But at least he's doing something to the character. It's not just every issue people telling Dick Grayson, "You're amazing. Let's erect another statue to you."
Yeah, there's actually a storyline, and Dick is trying to do something about the problems in Gotham right now, not just sitting back throwing money at the problem.
But I think she's also got a point there. Untouchable as Sam Humphries, probably the best
Amazing.
thing Sam Humphries has ever done in his life.
Yeah, that was like my introduction to Sam Humphries. Like, oh wow, this guy's great.
guy's
And then I
great.
read some other stuff, and it's just like this is not
Never mind.
good. And it also kind of teases to something we were talking about in aficionados yesterday about like how hard it is to introduce new villains. The Judge was awesome. The Judge was sick. Like that's a guy I would like to see more of. That was such a cool, like his lore and everything, his backstory. He looked cool too. The all white, the no eyes. Like the Judge was really cool. Like that was one of the few in modern times I can think of like new villains. I'm like, oh, this actually feels like a fully fleshed character instead of like say a James Tynion new villain where it's like I just got to get as many into this Batman as I can.
Yeah.
So hopefully someone uses them in the future.
Yeah, I really like that one. I think the Bleeding Edge by Ben Percy was pretty good, but we didn't get an ending. He kind of ended up taking bits of that story and playing it out over on the X-Men line. Because he kept doing like these like dark web stories where like the unfettered portion of the internet that you don't know about kind of thing. But Bleeding Edge was cool. He had a really good annual that we got
The
fucking
race one?
Silencer in. That was awesome.
Yeah, that race was cool. Yeah.
I would have loved to see what Ben Percy was going to do on Nightwing, but he kind of got pushed out. I guess he didn't really love the idea of giving him amnesia and making him Rick Grayson.
Yeah, I heard like the rumor was that he had an idea from when he got shot in the head that he was going to get vertigo and he's going to have to be like an on the ground detective because now like Dick is afraid of heights. And I was like, oh, that could be interesting for like an arc or two. But instead, they're like amnesia, so he's not even Dick Grayson anymore.
Yeah,
but that's what I heard. That
Tom Taylor did something similar to that. It didn't work out.
That's Tom Taylor.
He had to go to like Tibet to learn to love heights again with Dead Man. It was weird. He actually scaled a mountain covered with snow with a 3-legged dog. So there you go. I would have just used a bat fucking wing or something. Probably has access to all that,
He said, no, he gave away all his money. Can't afford a Batwing.
Man, did you read those Michael Moriarty Nightwing one shots that he did back in the day?
Yes. Yes, like the one with Arsenal and like Damien and yeah,
That's
yeah.
the one I love the most. That's
Yeah.
that's like one of my favorite Nightwing issues ever, where Nightwing and Arsenal both want his attention. Like, we should be
Yes.
doing this full time, and he's like, I want to be home. I don't want to have
Yeah.
to hang out with you guys. And they're all pissed off at each other because Dick isn't paying them only the attention. I thought it was good.
It was great. Morrissey like
Fighting ninjas.
mastered the one shot. He had like a great Superman one shot as well. He did a lot of really cool stuff.
Yeah, he's the only writer right now that can do some Star Wars stuff that's actually good. He's done some of those like all ages Dark Horse Star Wars books that end up being one shots, and his are normally good. But I don't know why that guy doesn't get more breaks. He's actually a good writer.
Yeah, everything I've read of his, I like.
I don't know, do you have any final thoughts on Nightwing now that we've talked about Nightwing for a good 20 minutes here?
The blueprint is out there. You just look at Chuck Dixon's run. He did a lot of really cool stuff there, and you can kind of follow that and figure out what to do. Marv Wolfman then did a follow up after that. That was really cool. Like there's places to take Nightwing you can do where, and I think stop bringing Batman and the Bat family into it. There's so many arcs. Like that's what because I went back recently and read a lot of Chuck Dixon's run. There's so many arcs where there's just no one from the Bat family or any mention of Gotham. It's like, yeah, because Nightwing's his own character, Dick is his own person. I like that. I like a lot. Like, instead of just constantly going in circles and like bringing him back to Batman and having him do stuff with the Bat family, it's like he has his own separate thing. Keep him in Bloodhaven. Give him his own villains. We don't gotta constantly just have Blockbuster now because that's the only villain anyone's ever heard of for Nightwing. Like, give Dick his own world. Keep him out of the Bat world for a little bit. That's what I would like. Instead, they just keep. It's like he's a Batman character. We gotta keep him in that circle.
In fact, in Tom Taylor's run, by the end, because he had gone to rediscover his love of heights with Deadman, he wasn't there to protect Bloodhaven, and Bruce shows up and dresses up like Nightwing.
Oh
Except
yeah,
he's 6'3", 250.
yeah. I didn't read that, but I saw people posting that all over Twitter, and that's
Like,
so
what is
stupid. Why would
this?
he dress up as Nightwing? He would just come in as
He's
Batman.
already Batman.
Yeah.
People probably know who Batman is more than even Nightwing. It's still in Bloodhaven.
Yeah, that's so
So
stupid.
silly. So that'll be our Nightwing comic book talk. Now, you're a big MMA fan. You're an MMA head. How are you feeling about MMA heading into 2025?
I don't think it's in the best spot, especially well, I feel like it's been going down for years with a lot of like how they do their cards because you'll get like maybe one pay-per-view a year where it's like this is actually worth the how it's caught like with taxes everything it's like $100 for a paper. I'm pretty
It's
sure it's like
crazy. So
100.
you missed like the heyday
Yes.
where they would do maybe like 8 pay-per-views a year. And in the beginning, they didn't even really do the live shows on cable TV. You know, you would have the Ultimate Fighter going on, which was on, was it Spike TV or whatever?
Yes.
And then everything would be geared to these like 8 pay-per-views that they would do. And it'd always be like a title fight, maybe a second title fight. If it's not a second title fight, a grudge match of like 2 champion-worthy fighters, a number 1 contender fight, a showcase fight for whoever their up-and-coming guy is, so they could just play with their food and knock them out in 2 minutes. And then like a really closely contested like feature bout that people would get really excited that would get the pay-per-view going really well. And then the undercard would be stacked too with a bunch of up-and-comers. Now, with the way they do it now, because they do like maybe like a dozen pay-per-views, but they also are doing almost weekly events now. All the 4 undercards that would have filled out the pay-per-view are on other events now.
Yeah.
And
They're spread
they
way too
watered
thin.
them down.
Big time. You'll have like 1 or 2 pay-per-views like a year where it's like, oh, every
In
fight is a
Madison
banger.
Square Garden.
Yeah, and that's it. And then the rest, it's like, oh, there's one fight on this pay-per-view I'm interested in, and there's nothing on the prelims I'm interested in.
Mhm.
Like this is all bad. A big problem with it, I think, is how they get their fighters now. Because before, you had Ultimate Fighter, like you mentioned, and they would go and recruit and like go to smaller scenes and stuff. Now, a lot of the guys come from Dana White's Contender Series, where he pays them like a box of cereal and $5, and that's why he loves it. He pays them nothing. So they come onto the Contender Series. If they do good enough in Dana's eyes, he signs them, and it seems like really weird. It just seems if Dana likes you or not, because there's some dudes that go on there like knock out 3 dudes in a row. It's like I don't think you're ready for the UFC yet, bud. You can't like fight in here. It's like yeah, but CM Punk could. And then there's other guys that like go to a decision that aren't very exciting. It's like I'm signing you, and he just gets those guys on there. They're boring. They're filling up cards now, and that's what we got. and it sucks. And also, the big thing that MMA had, especially UFC over boxing, was the best fought the best. Like, it wasn't, with boxing, you hear about, why doesn't this guy fight this guy? It's like, oh, because they're with different promotions, they want to get paid, and blah blah blah. With UFC, it's like, you're both under UFC, we're making you fight. We had John Jones was heavyweight champ, and then he got hurt. So Tom Aspinall came in and fought for the interim title. He won the interim title. John Jones was better. Instead of having them fight, Tom Aspinall defended the interim belt before John Jones ever defended it. So he won the belt and then had a defense before John ever defended his belt. And then when John was ready to fight again, Tom was ready to fight. So he's like, all right, I'll have a second defense of my interim belt and fight John. John's like, no, I want to fight, was it 41-year-old Stipe, who hasn't fought in 3 years. And the last time he did, he got knocked out cold by Francis Ngannou. And now when you see him out and about, he walks with a cane and can barely move. And it's like, you have an interim champ in your division. If you have an interim champ, you have to fight that guy. There can't be two champs in the division. Instead, they strip Aspinall of his interim championship belt that he defended, and they have John defend his belt against a 41-year-old who hadn't fought in 3 years, got knocked out last time he did. He beat Stipe's ass, wasn't even close, wasn't a fun fight. And now he's saying, I don't want to fight Aspinall. I want to go back to 205 and fight Pereira, who doesn't have a ground game, because it's an easy fight for me. And Pereira is the biggest name in the UFC currently.
But I don't want to see Pereira fight John Jones. I want to see Pereira fight Dricus.
Yes, that would be fun. But that's another thing. The middleweight division is I love Dricus. It's not his fault. He said, I'll fight anyone the UFC gave me. The UFC loves Sean Strickland. They're giving him Sean Strickland. Dricus won against he beat Strickland for the belt. He won the decision. It was a close fight, but he won clearly, in my opinion, and according to the judges. But since then, Sean Strickland has been bitching. And he's done nothing. He had a boring-ass fight with Paulo Costa. That's the only fight he's had since then. He won it, and since then he's like, I should get a fight with Dricus because our title fight was close, and I got robbed. And so UFC's like, okay, we'll give it to you. It's like, you won one fight. Rob had a much more exciting fight with Costa and beat him, and then knocked out a guy, an up-and-comer, Ikram Aliskerov, that no one wanted to fight because he was one of those Dagestani guys with, like, great judo and was, like, very scary. Rob knocked him out in the first round, didn't get a title fight, had to fight Hamzat, to where Sean just has a boring-ass fight with Paulo, and he gets the title shot instantly. It's so, I'm annoyed with the politics of the UFC, of, like, how you get a title shot. It's so stupid.
It feels like a Rob Whittaker, like, apologist right there.
He had a more exciting fight, and dude, that was so unfortunate. Did you see what happened with him?
I saw he got sleep, didn't he?
No. So he has an issue with his bottom row of teeth, where when he fought Dricus, they got pushed in. And then this fight, when he got the face crank, they got pushed in. That's why he tapped so fast. He said, I felt my teeth on my tongue. And that's why that's why, like, as soon as he gets the face crank, he instantly taps. Because it was
he slept him. He tapped him right out.
He tapped him, but it was because of a freak accident. Like, it was looking like
he broke his teeth. That doesn't feel like he was an accident. He was trying to hurt him.
No, it is because that was a thing Rob's had since childhood. He talked about it. Now he's got his teeth
taken out.
He should have had them fixed, yeah. But
isn't that what Dan Henderson does? He's got, like, the dentures, like my grandparents.
But now he's got his teeth fixed. But it was looking like the Hamzat Usman fight, where it's like, oh, Hamzat goes full bore, he gets you down, but he can't do anything, and then he gasses out. And it's like, because Rob was defending everything. It's like, all right, this is going exactly how I thought it would, and we got 4 more rounds of this. I'm excited, but then his teeth sunk, and it's like, that was so sad. That was so sad. But Hamzat should be fighting for the title next, not Strickland.
Absolutely, he beat a former world champion in decisive fashion,
Yeah.
in front of his own home audience. That was in Australia, right?
No, Hamzat can't fight anywhere but in freaking like Abu Dhabi. They fought in Abu Dhabi. That's what was funny.
I knew it was overseas.
Because the first time they were supposed to fight, Hamzat pulled out because he had a little cold, and that's when Rob knocked out Ikram. After that, Hamzat was like, shit, talking to Rob's like, I'll see you around. And Rob's like, where are you gonna see me? You can't leave the I can't remember what it's called, that Arab Emirates. He's like, you can't leave there. He's like, you're not gonna see me anywhere. Yeah, UAE. He's like, you can't, like, you're not going to see me anywhere, but you can't leave because all the fights.
Well, if he can't leave legitimately, he's not going to get a title fight.
No, they'll do a title fight over there. That like,
they can't
president
do more than one an event
rule or whatever.
There.
They've done multiple.
But it's only like one a year.
No, they did multiple.
UAE used to own 10% of the UFC before they sold them.
They did multiple last year because Rob fought twice, like, over there last year. Yeah, because Was it because that I can't remember his name, like the president dude that was like holding hands with Dana White gives them so much money. And he funded the Sear event they had in Vegas. He funded that too, which is funny because that was for Mexican Independence Day and they had like the Arab guy funding it. But yeah, so that whole thing was funny with Rob.
But yeah, you missed out the good times when Pride existed and there was like an actual competitor for the UFC. And Pride was like so different, I think the UFC it's like kind of buttoned down and the presentation is kind of boring. I've been to 3 UFC events and UFC Live is awesome. They put on a really good show, like in between the matches and all that stuff is exciting. But Pride had so much more like pomp and circumstance and all that kind of stuff where fireworks, you got the crazy Pride lady, and they would put on really enormous fights between weight classes. They were like, screw it. We'll have a 185er fight a 300-pound sumo wrestler if we can get people to watch it. But obviously Pride's been dead for like 15 years, maybe longer than that now.
Yeah, I think it's been longer than that now. It's been a long time. But yeah,
But
they don't have UFC doesn't have a competitor. Have you watched any PFL? It's so
no, it looks awful.
It's so bad. They'll occasionally have a good fight, but dude, their whole thing is like we've got a statistic for everything. We have the smart cage, so they have like a computer like intertwined with the cage, so it can tell you how fast a punch is or whatever. So there's like 18 million graphics on scene at like on screen at once, and you can barely see the fight because they're telling you how fast a punch is or like how hard a guy hit or whatever. It's like I don't care about any of this. I can barely see the fight. It's bad, and there's like an hour between fights.
I liked it back in the day when they had the WEC and they had the UFC. And all the lower weight classes were in the WEC and they had all the world champions that mattered. And the UFC was basically lightweight and up. Because those smaller fighters, it's hard to headline like a real UFC event with them because you're never going to get a stoppage unless it's a submission. And even then, they're so small and fast, and a lot of times they just scramble.
Not necessarily. Like there's a lot of guys. I feel like that's also another thing that the UFC effed up. You know the whole new gloves fiasco?
Yeah, you were explaining that one where they couldn't grip. They were still poking each other in the eye.
Yeah, so they switched back to the old gloves because John Jones tried the new gloves because he hadn't fought in like 2 years, and he tried the new gloves. He said these things suck, and so UFC's like, all right, we'll go back to the gloves you want, Sean. So they went back to the old gloves. So now they're doing I believe it's every pay-per-view is the old gloves and every fight night is the new gloves. And that's what they're doing for like the next to round out the year, and then they're gonna figure out what they're doing going forward. The really annoying part is there's Trevor Whitman. He's like the coach of Justin Gaethje and Kamaru Usman and several others. He made his own gloves that everyone loves. Like the fighters love those gloves, that they work really well. They prevent eye pokes and they feel good on your hand. And he presented the UFC. He's like, hey, you guys can use these. UFC's like, we want to own the patent and everything to these. Exactly. We want to completely have these as ours. And he's like, no, I made these. Like, you guys can use them for fights, but you're not going to own the patent on like my technology, something I created. They're like, all right, we don't want them. And so then they made their shitty dollar store gloves. It's like you had the solution right there. Like, you make so much money, you don't need the patent to Trevor Whitman's gloves.
So for you, what is the dream match in 2025? Is it Pereira, Dricus, or is it John Jones, Tom Aspinall?
John Jones, Tom Aspinall is definitely up there, but I'd also love to see what's his name? Why am I?
Oh, he's blanking on a lower weight guy.
I'm trying to think of it. It just like it left my head. What's his name? Oh man, Topuria. I'd like to see Topuria fight Islam because Topuria has just absolutely destroyed he destroyed Max Holloway, he destroyed Volk, two dudes that we thought couldn't be destroyed by anyone other than each other.
Volkanovski was unbeatable until he got him, and he got him twice, right?
No, that was Islam who beat him. Volkanovski moved up, gave Islam the toughest fight Islam's ever had, other than the time he got knocked out, but his toughest time as a champ. And then he took the next fight on short notice, like 2 weeks notice, and got head kicked. And it was like, okay, that was on 2 weeks notice. You know, people still didn't really take that knockout as much. Topuria, Volk came back, fought Topuria, and got his ass beat, got killed. And then Holloway, who no one other than Volk can beat in like modern times, knocked him out. And Max, I don't think had been like dropped in the UFC ever. Like this is his like first time getting dropped, nevertheless knocked out. It's like, oh snap! And now he's like, hey, I can beat Islam too. It's like I have no reason to not believe this guy after what he did to Volk and Holloway. I would love to see Poirier versus Islam. As much as it would kind of suck because Islam's defended his belt against a 45er twice. It's like a third one against a 45er would be kind of stupid, but still, I would like to see it. I think that'd be fun.
So you haven't been to a UFC event yet. Have you been to an MMA event, just period?
No, I haven't.
Because when I was in Omaha, we used to go to Omaha Fight Club. And, they had like a couple of guys that were kind of pros or whatever. And like the smaller shows with just like a bunch of high school wrestlers or guys like kind of beating each other up, they were fun. But I've been to 3 UFCs, 2 of them in Dallas. One of them was the Vitor Belfort, Rich Franklin, where Belfort knocked him out in about a minute and a half, I believe. And then I went to the UFC on Fight Night 1 with Cain Velasquez versus, was it Junior Dos Santos?
They fought
like
so. 3 times.
Oh. Yeah, I believe it was the first one where
when JDS beat his ass, the only time he beat him.
Yes, and it obviously was in front of a crowd that was very much pro Cain Velasquez. So those are the ones I went to. The best fight I've ever seen, Ben Henderson versus Clay Guida, was the co-main event of that UFC on Fight Night. Although it wasn't on TV for some reason, that thing was amazing. They just like sat there like a couple of barn cats for like 3 rounds straight, just fighting each other. It was great.
Yeah, Guida can go.
And then I've got to see Dustin Poirier fight twice, and I believe he got a Darce in both of them when he was much younger, before he was a title contender. Yeah. I think before he fought McGregor the first time and got beat.
He's going to have his final fight this year, or 2025.
That's crazy, because when I was watching him, he was like 25. Now I guess all of my favorite fighters from then are old.
Yeah,
Holly would have been like 23 at the time.
That might be my favorite fight of the year, was his fight against Islam. Did you get a chance to watch that?
No, obviously being here in the Philippines, it's on television. I just don't know where, and we don't even have cable anymore. So I did get like the UFC TV or UFC
Fight Pass,
whatever they called it, and I went and got it for a year. And there are just so many events. You're like, do I want to start playing this and fast forward through the 11 fights that I don't care about just to get the 1 or 2 that I want to see? So it ended up being, I was like, I don't think I'm going to keep this. But I try to go back into it. But there was a time I would watch every single UFC event. I would obviously watch all the episodes of The Ultimate Fighter. I would watch WEC, certainly. I would watch Pride. There was a couple of other like local type of things that they were doing at the time that I would kind of check them out too. But those days are long gone. I'm more of a comic guy now, I guess. But
yeah,
I used to be hardcore in the MMA stuff. It's fun.
Yeah, I still like it a lot, but I've definitely died down. I don't watch it as much as I did before because just
it's prohibitive. $100 for a card? Like, get out of here.
Yeah, well, I don't pay for pay-per-views, but there's other ways to find them. But it's a lot of time for a lot of fights that just like don't matter. I don't really care about or aren't. So it's like I'm very selective.
I can't believe Michael Johnson's still fighting in the UFC.
Knocked dude out last night.
He's like, what is he, 25-19? Like, what's the point?
I think 25-19 might be a little generous. I think he might be like 26-26 or something like that.
Like, I can't believe this dude's still fighting.
But he's
I guess he's
a perfect prelim fighter. Yeah, he's a perfect prelim fighter because he's like kill or be killed. He's fun and like killed that guy last night.
I wonder if this guy's got what it takes. Well, throw him in there with Michael. If he beats the crap out of him, he's probably all right. If he gets smoked, he's not ready.
The saying with Michael Johnson is always like, he could beat the best fighter in the world, but he could also lose to my grandma. And it's like, that's the dichotomy of Michael Johnson. You never know who's it going to be.
So did you get into the UFC by the time GSP was still around, or were you at the latter end?
Yeah, so I was into it when I was younger, but it was mainly like whatever they'd play on Spike because I was a kid, I couldn't afford pay-per-views. I didn't know how to watch pay-per-views. It's just like whatever would show on Spike or like
Bonner and people like that they would feature on Spike because they'd been on Ultimate Fighter.
Exactly. So whatever I could find that way, or if I could find like stuff on the internet. But then I got much more into it when like 2017. Like that was when I got more, and also I had adult money then, so I could actually like figure out how to watch it and like get more into it. So that was when GSP came back.
GSP like in his prime. There's so many good. Like he was like essentially unbeatable, even though he did get knocked out by the fucking Jersey guy that can't fight.
Yes, Michael Sarah.
Matt Sarah. That was so weird. Me and my buddies were watching it. We couldn't believe it happened, and the only way we could console each other or console ourselves was to go to the Playhouse strip club on the other side of the border from Omaha. And we were like, this is the only thing that we can do to feel better about this. I can't believe GSP lost.
That's my brother's favorite fighter for a time. He like constantly switched. His favorite fighter was Ben Askren. So when Ben Askren came in, he was all happy. And we were watching the Jorge Masvidal fight. And my friend who always likes to troll was like, I bet he gets knocked out in 20 seconds. And then in 5 seconds he got
way off.
5 seconds, and we were, oh my god, my brother was in complete shock and horror. We were dying laughing. Just ruined the card for him. Just 5 seconds, dead, stiff as a board. Just like, oh, I was a little sad too because I liked Askren and I thought Masvidal was annoying.
I like Askren. I'm from Missouri, and he was All-American, I think 4-time All-American, I think 2-time collegiate champion in his weight division in Missouri before he went to the Olympics. I guess it didn't go all that well for him, but Ben Askren was all right.
Yeah.
Weird trade.
He dominated Bellator, but the problem was UFC got him post hip surgery. Like his hip was, or not post hip surgery, post when he needed a hip surgery. Like his hip was all effed up. You could see like his movement and everything. And he was retired for like 2 years before they got him. He was done.
Yeah, they traded
Mighty Mouse,
the little Mighty Mouse for him. Yeah, weird with 1FC or whatever.
Yeah, that Robbie Lawler fight was great though. Did you watch the Askren Robbie Lawler fight?
Yeah, it was great. I love Robbie Lawler.
Dude,
I remember when he was like 19 fighting Nick Diaz.
Dude, his fight versus, oh man, who was the black guy he fought? What was his name? I can't remember. He fought that like ripped black dude back in the day. I can't remember his name. And the guy was just kicking Robbie Lawler's legs
from
off.
Cuba?
Maybe. I can't remember. The name's on the tip of my tongue, but I can't remember his name. And Robbie Lawler's just getting his legs kicked up. Like as soon as his leg gets kicked, it goes flying in the air. Like every time. And this dude's just chasing Lawler around the cage. Lawler's like not throwing a punch, nothing, getting his ass beat. Lawler throws one punch at like towards the end of the round, knocks him dead instantly. It's like, oh.
Tyron Woodley.
No, it wasn't Woodley.
Woodley, also another wrestler from University of Missouri. Very, very good.
No, it wasn't Woodley. This was back in like WEC. This was like pre-UFC, I think.
Oh, okay. You're talking really old stuff.
Yeah.
I'm not sure that. But Lawler had some really good fights. He had like, was it the Condit fight that was amazing?
Yes, the Condit fight was great. The
Roy McDonald fight might be like one of the 2 or 3 best I've ever seen. Yes.
No, it's great. Oh, Melvin Manhoof. That's the one I'm thinking.
Oh, the kickboxer. Yes.
Yeah.
Oh,
that's where like
good fighter.
Yeah. He was picking Robbie Lawler apart. And then the time Robbie Lawler's like, oh yeah, I can throw back, knocks him out instantly. It was sick.
So I'm gonna leave you with one suggestion. You probably have seen this fight, but if you haven't seen it, it was a UFC fight night, on Spike or whatever. It's an oldie but goodie gem to discover. Diego Sanchez, before he was kind of outed as not being athletic enough to be a champion. I think he might have still been undefeated at the time, coming off the Ultimate Fighting Championship or champion winner in season 1 for middleweight, fighting Caro the Heat Parisian. Remember Caro Parisian? He was like a world-class judo fighter. And Caro was like in line to go and fight for a title very, very soon. And he fought Diego in a main event for like a fight night card. And it's one of the greatest fights that you'll ever see in your life. You'll even see somebody's tooth flying out, which I love, from a knee to the face.
Yeah, I haven't seen that one. Try to hunt it down, check it out.
You should do that. I bet you it's on YouTube. I bet you they put that up as free since it was on Spike and stuff.
Probably. They have a lot of free fights on there. And like the different language channels. Like UFC Brazil will have different fights on like main UFC channel. They have a lot of free fights on there.
So there's an oldie but goodie gem before we realized that Diego Sanchez was never going to be a world title contender.
Before he went crazy and got like molested by his coach.
Is that what happened to him? That's sad.
Rumored that that last coach might have diddled him a little bit. That weird guy. Yeah.
All right, you got any final thoughts on the MMA or even comic books?
There are good comics out there. Just you just gotta search for them. And not everything's doom and gloom, but there are a lot of good comics out there. And hopefully it makes better in 2025.
Do you like movies? You like movies. Did you like
I
The
love movies.
Warrior with Tom not Tom, is it
Tom
Tom
Hardy.
Hardy? Yeah,
Yeah.
and I can't the guy that played Uncle
Joel Edgerton.
Owen. Joel Edgerton.
Yeah. Yeah.
Best
I liked
MMA
it a
movie
lot.
ever?
It's really good. It's not like in terms of like realism of MMA, obviously it's terrible, but in terms of a movie, I liked it a lot. I thought it was really cool. And man, what's his name? Who plays Tom Hardy's dad? The guy with the voice, as
Nick Nolte.
yeah, Nick Nolte. Oh, it kills in that movie. Nick Nolte makes you want to cry watching that movie.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you want an
Warrior's
MMA
really
movie,
good.
that's the one to watch. The one that they got right. Don't watch the one with King of the Hill guy.
Yeah. Watch The Warrior. Warrior's pretty good.
All right, brother. Well, I'm going to let you go, and I'll see you around.
All right, cool. See you, man.